Boys and girls, ladies and gents, welcome to another episode of Clutch Conversations. It's your boy Mike. We back at you one more again, live on a Thursday night. We got BC's Balls and Reptilia in the building tonight. We're gonna get to that in just a second, but first and foremost, shout out to my lovely wife Takara. Appreciate everything you do. Really looking forward to kicking it this weekend. We got a lot of work to do this weekend, so we're gonna be grinding as we always do. Make sure y'all show us some love in the comments, man. And don't stop there. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and smash that notification bell and show the channel some love. We really appreciate it. Appreciate everything you do. Let's take care of some housekeeping stuff real quick. Like, definitely make sure you give us a follow on Morph Market. We're trying to get to 250 followers by the end of the year. Just this past week, we crossed that 200 follower threshold. So we knocking on the door of 250. The countdown to 250 begins. So definitely go out there and give us a follow on Morph Market. Check out the snakes we got posted. If you got questions on anything, hit me up. Definitely willing to work out some deals if you see something you like. So definitely hit us up on Morph Market. Also, give us a follow on Instagram. Check out the main page at Herp Collectors, and then check out the show page at Clutch Conversations. Go give us a follow there. Really looking forward to hopefully, man, getting some eggs on the ground in the next couple of months, man. I got this super late season, but once we get some hatches, we're gonna get some more pictures of stuff to post out there on Instagram too, from a snake perspective. Definitely go give us a follow on Facebook at Herp Collectors. And definitely don't forget, check us out on your favorite audio casting platform. Clutch Conversations is available on all major podcasting platforms. That's Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, and more. So definitely go check us out. When you're checking us out on your favorite podcasting platform, please be sure to follow, rate, and review. It really helps us out, man. And shout out to all the folks who have been leaving some dope reviews on the audio podcasting platforms, man. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate the support. Speaking of support, if you're involved in this reptile hobby in any shape, form, or fashion, make sure you're supporting both US Art and US Art Florida. The link for both organizations are in the description of this video. Definitely go get you a membership. If you don't have a membership, drop your extra donation, and definitely spread the word, man. Tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend about both these organizations that's helping protect our rights as reptile keepers. Quick update on the new show, Double Clutch, that's coming out. Before we said that it was coming out on June 15th, but we had a change of plans. It's going to come out on June 22nd, which is still a Saturday. It's going to be 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's me and the homie Matt from Ebony and Ivory Reptiles. It's going to be a show that we start off doing every other week, Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to deep dive into some topics about ball python keeping, ball python market, just everything ball pythons. And who knows, we may even get into some other stuff too. But it's really going to be dope, man. It's going to force us to do a lot of research and just really kind of organize our thoughts. It's going to be definitely a lot of fun, man. And so, you know, the homie Matt, he's going to keep it hype. It's going to be a lot of fun. So definitely make sure you check us out. Hey, we're going to get this sponsor video real quick, and then we'll be right back to holler at the folks in the chat.
Art comes in many forms. At Armless Angels, it comes to life. In life, success doesn't come to you. You go to it. In this game, Forward thinking is the key to innovation and staying relevant. Plan your work and work your plan. Lose yourself in the art. Lose yourself with Wetter Morphs.
Shout out to the homie Justin. Shout out to the homie Unc from Wetter Morph Constrictors. Appreciate both you fellas, man. You know I love you. See who we got in the chat. Blakers Pythons, what's good? Appreciate you coming out, fam. Appreciate it. The homie Arvin from Game of Odds. Appreciate you coming out, homie. Vinny, Bone Daddy Serpents in the building. What's good, homie? Appreciate you coming out. The Sultan of Support in the building. The homie Bosa from Bosa Reptiles. Appreciate you coming out, fam. Shauna, what's good? Appreciate you coming out. James, what's good? All City Serpents in the building. Appreciate you coming out, fam. Celtic Reptiles in the building. What's good, fam? Appreciate you coming out. Dwight, the Pie Man. What's good, bro? Appreciate you coming out, fam. Wages Reptiles in the building. Appreciate you coming out. The homie Eric from Eric's Morph Factory. What's good, homie? Appreciate you coming out. Mission Morphs in the building. What's good? Appreciate you coming out, homie. See what else we got. Got the homie Rock. What's good? Appreciate you coming out, fam. Fred, what's good? MTZ Pythons. What's good, fam? Appreciate you coming out. Appreciate the support. See who else we got in the building. We got the big homie Wiz in the building again. Shout out to the homie Wiz from Wiz Constrictors, Malacio in the building. And shout out to the Wiz Tang fam. And we're going to stop it right there. We're going to keep the intro and then we'll be right back with our guest.
Baby, won't you listen to me? I got that flavor. I know you're dying to feed. I ain't no dancer, just got some hip in my feet. Now throw your hands up. Ooh, you bring the lighter, I got the fuse. You make a fire, I'll add the fuel. Follow my lady, just watch your shoes. Gotta turn the heat up. This cool.
Who you know who looking like this for real? Who you know who looking like this? Who you know who looking like this for real? Who you know who looking like this? Who you know who looking like this for real? Who you know who looking like this? Who you know who looking like this for real? Who you know who looking like this?
Episode 120, BC's Balls and Reptilia. What's good, bro? How you doing?
What's up, Mike? How you doing, man?
Pretty good, pretty good. How's your day been going so far?
Going good, man. Just today was going through all the adult ball python tubs and just it's getting ready to pop off and get crazy around here.
Oh
What's
yeah.
up, Alicia, Josh? That's my people right there, man. That's our best friend. And
Oh,
balls,
Herb and
too.
Harvey.
yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome folks.
I think I heard you talking about them one time. They're Tennessee fans too, as well.
Yeah,
well,
they live here in town, and they've been helping us on our hognose journey a whole lot. So I mean, just we tailgate every football game with them. Just good people, man. And you know, it's Tom Harbin's son and daughter-in-law, so they come from a really good pedigree.
Okay. Yeah,
But,
definitely a real good pedigree.
but it's about to start popping off. Like I was looking at my countdown timer today, and you know, I've got 5 more days until, as far as I go on the timer, there's not a 5-day period that there's not a clutch due to lay or hatch, you know, in that time frame. So it's, and our season's usually really late, and this year a lot of stuff's going really early. So it may be one of those like high percentage years. I don't know. I mean, after 35% last year, you know, I'll take a 50-60% year. You know, that's a 50-55 clutch year. That would be the biggest yet. You know, so and it's mostly good stuff. You know, I mean,
Nice.
I'd like to say it's all good stuff, but the definition of good stuff changes by the way the wind blows, dude. So, you know, I mean, it's it's really hard to say. You know, you just kind of hope it hits, and you hit what you want and what you need to move forward. And yeah, it's gonna be this is gonna be a challenging year. We got 4 different species of eggs incubating right now, and
Oh, really?
yeah, so you know the Wilbanks incubator in the other room has, I think it's 105 eggs so far. I still got a couple of double clutches to come on the hognose, so hopefully we can pump that up around 120. And you know, the ball pythons are just getting started. I pulled clutch 6 a couple of days ago, and the 7's due to lay on June 4th, you know, first week of June, somewhere around in there. And then 27 total ball pythons are done, and there's still 45 in play. You know, so we'll see. If I can get a third of those, it'll be close to the biggest year ever. And
Wow,
there's
wow.
some good stuff in there.
Yeah, so potentially 72 clutches of ball python.
Well, I mean, potentially, I think 42 to 50 would be a more reasonable number. Get just you know, scanning every 3 weeks and seeing the way some of the girls that are left on the, you know, when I say they're in play, they haven't absorbed yet, but you know, there's some that I can just tell are, you know, I mean, they're not eating, they're not cool seeking, they're not doing any of the behavior at all. They're just sitting at 17, 18 millimeters, and you know, just kind of chilling. And it won't be long, I'll be like, okay, there's nothing there, you know. But but I think 15 to 20 out of those 30, out of those 45 will probably go. And you put that with what we got, it's still going to be a great year, man. Some
Yeah, that's a great
potential.
year. Yeah. So some of those girls in break your heart mode. So you said last year you it was 35%, you
You
said?
know, yeah. And when I say that number, you know, Badu and I talked about this not long ago because, like, you know, he made a comment that 82% of his females win. I'm like, damn, dog. You know, I mean, that's like, teach me, Padawan. You know, I mean, how do I do this? And but then he clarified. He's like, you know, he wasn't. I count every girl that starts the year on the pairing sheet. You know, I mean, if I'm planning to pair that female that year, you know, she's age, weight, size, ready to go. You know, I count her in that number, where some people count just the girls that get above 12 millimeters, which is what Bob counts, you know. And I don't know, man, I'm so mixed on that, because I mean, even though I've got males going to 10, 12, sometimes more than that, females, you know, I throw a lock on them to start the year, you know, I mean, and then monitor with the ultrasound from there. You know, it works the boys a little bit, but usually they get through that first round of locks still on food. Then they're not locking for a while again, because I'm not going to lock them again until I see at least 16, 18, you know. So, you know, bulk them up, keep them on food then, and then now's the time they're hitting it hard. You know, I mean, they're seeing 2 females a week sometimes. You know, I mean, it's, and then now is when it's really going, because I only had 13 males I'm breeding this year. Then I started the year with 102 females on the pairing sheet. So I mean, that's, you know, that's both a good thing and a bad thing, because you know, one of my biggest mistakes I made, you know, I know we're going to get into some topics, but this just kind of, you know, naturally came up, is I didn't pay enough attention as I went to the strength of my females. I paid, you know, I mean, you hear all the time, man, you got a powerhouse male, you got to have powerful males, and you do, you know, but you know, I didn't have any double visual females until the last 12 months, and I never really thought about that. And you know, Patrick McKnight kind of helped go through my collection with me and look at some stuff, and he's like, dude, how are you going to hit triples if you don't have double females? You know, he's like, you know, so we corrected some of that, you know, earlier. Well, that may have been, that was year before last. We've had those snakes for probably about a year and a half now, because a lot of them will breed this winter. But
Okay.
you know, and it's getting to the point now where, like, when we made our initial investment and decided we're gonna do this, you know, a much different thing was hot, you know, than what it is now. And where I was concentrating on making the most awesome clowns I could, the most awesome pods I could, the most awesome hypos I could. And, you know, what's that desert ghost a few people are talking about, you know, but back in the very beginning, you know, oh, that's been around forever. Nobody's done anything with it. So why invest in that? You know, so you know, you make a lot of those decisions, but you know, I never did really put those recessives together. It was just I just wanted to keep, you know, kind of going because clown, I mean, is by far my favorite gene, and it comes down, you know, I know I've said this on some early podcasts, and you know, I don't know if it was cocky or what, but it was like, you know, it doesn't matter what I like, it matters what the person across the table from me at a show likes, you know, that kind of stuff. But man, you know, I've totally reversed course on that. You know, I mean, and you know, the market's not exactly blowing up right now. I think everybody knows that. You hit the right thing, it's going to go. But you know, at the same time, it's slow going. You know, auctions have become a big thing, and you know, they were a big thing when I first got into this in 2016, 2017. There was huge Facebook groups with auctions, and you know, it's you know, there was a dip then, there's a dip now. You know, things are hard to move, and what's important right now, in my opinion, is getting some of the ball pythons off the market that are out there into some homes, you know, and a lot of things, the auctions and stuff like that have really done that. Whether you agree with them or not, I'm not, you know, here to have a debate about it. It's just, you know, this is the first time in a long time Morph Market's been below 35,000 ball pythons listed.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I think, hey, real quick before I give my take on auctions, shout out to the homie Charlie from Gray Rider
what's up,
Reptiles. He says
Charlie?
he'll be in and out. Have a great show. Appreciate it, brother. Appreciate the support, man. Much appreciated. Yeah, I think overall it's been like a net positive for the auctions, for the morph market auctions. Cause I mean, for me personally, like it's allowed me to move some stuff that I mean, some stuff I've even moved for like the price that I had it posted for, or maybe just a tad bit more, right?
me
And it's like
too.
it's crazy. It's like it sat there for like a month, 2 months, 3 months, however, put it on auction, then all of a sudden, like everybody wants. And so I think a lot of what's feeding into that is the fact that a lot of people look at the auctions like on a more regular basis because, like you said, it's 30-something thousand ball pythons on Morph Market. And so just given the sheer number of ball pythons this own it, maybe somebody didn't come across like you're at, but if they go to the auction page, then you know what I'm saying, it's anywhere from 100 to what 175, 200, however many that's posted on there. And like they going through, and as time goes on, it's like getting bumped closer and closer and closer to the beginning, depending on how you have it sorted or whatnot. But I feel like you're getting like more eyes who are looking to buy on it. And so it's been driving up some prices. Now, conversely, on the other side, I have had animals that went for like well below what I had them
Oh
posted
yeah,
for.
yeah. Well,
But
but you got to look at it on an average, and you know, and I'm
exactly.
not the. What's up, Will?
What's
I,
up, Will?
I don't. You know, the make an offer function that they've added on Morph Market now. You know, you have to set the percentage that you'll accept, and there's only three, the 50, 60, and 70. And you know, if you take out like I've used a few auctions as like wholesale, you know, people that do a lot of the smaller shows and stuff like that, a lot of those like male double hats, male pastel double hats, the stuff that, you know, man, just is not going to move on Morph Market right now. And I don't do the smaller shows where that stuff does well. And, you know, so I put together like some 7 and 8 snake packages, and they still brought about 3 times what I would have wholesaled them for if wholesale buyers were buying right now. So I mean, I can't complain about that. But on single snake auctions, I've ran 26. I did this before the show just to know this number. I did 26, and I've averaged 78% of the listed price of the snake over that big of a sample size, you know. So I mean,
That's pretty good.
right now, as far as a listed price, I mean, you know, if somebody sees a snake that they want and 20% off makes a difference, holler. You know, I mean, that's that's you know, I mean, I ran a sale this past weekend. I used to never be a big proponent of sales, but man, I've been in the sales of the, you know, tangible products my entire adult life, and you know, you see dips and ebbs and flows and everything. And, you know, the biggest thing about, you know, what, I mean, some people would call it a downturn, yet, you know, the last 3 months we've had better than they were in 23. So I don't know if you can really call it a downturn. it's more of a, people are becoming much more discriminating in what they're looking for and what they're buying, and either you have it or you don't. Where back in the day when I was first buying clowns, you couldn't hardly buy a clown without pastel. I mean, because everybody was keeping the ones that didn't have pastel, at least in males for sure. And so my very first clown stock almost all had pastel, and then pastel just kind of fell off a cliff, and people kind of all of a sudden hated it, and it was and and it works so good in some jeans. I mean, I think puzzle's almost not right without pastel. I mean, zebra is not something I work with, but from the pictures I've seen of it, it almost needs pastel. What I mean, for it to look right. The nicest dreamsicle I've ever seen was a pastel blackhead dreamsicle that Patrick McKnight hatched in, I think, 21 maybe. But it was crazy how it was just exploded, like it was like lightly sprayed with white spray paint. So I mean, but it's just like I said, like the wind blows. You never know. And one of my biggest mistakes was buying those powerful males before I had females to put with them that could really make a difference. All I could really make was pieces of my puzzle. And even though we made some amazing clowns and have sold some amazing animals, but at the same time, like what I've been trying to concentrate on doing for the last 4 years anyway is put together my puzzle. And the sales from that kind of depends on who else is working my puzzle. I mean, that's just kind of the way to look at it. I mean, I can have a snake that's worth a lot to me that may not be worth very much in the open market because it doesn't fit anybody else's projects.
Absolutely. So actually that's a good segue. So talk about your puzzle, so to speak. So obviously clown is a huge part of that. What's some other things that you're doing in that space? And then kind of like what's changed recently as a result of some of the conversations you had with Patrick and just kind of changing your thought process on some of that?
Well, I mean, really early on, I bought a DG clown, when they were, retail $10,000-$12,000. I bought an adult DG pod that was one that Justin hatched that somebody else had that was a friend of mine, and I paid a lot for that one, but that was an adult, and all I had was a bunch of like pod combos. Like I had like 3 double heads that were 1,200 grams when I bought that ready to breed male, and paid twice as much for him as I would a baby. What I mean? It was like, I look back on that and it was like, well, why did I do that? But I see the stuff that I have that's breeding this year and next year, and I'm like, that's why I did that, because I'm not going to see my return the next year or the next year. I'm going to see my return when the snakes I made with that snake are breeding. And that's where, like, I think people sometimes kind of freak out a lot about, oh my God, DG clown was 10 grand. Now you can buy one for $2,500 or $2,000 or whatever the case may be. And, there was a rush for people to make the base, but they didn't put the codons in it. And, now, like, I'm sitting here thinking about 2 girls that are getting ready to ovulate any day now, just about to salivate, because I mean, it could be some next level DG clown stuff. And, and that's not stranger. It's not anything like that. It's just, I mean, I've got a chocolate black pastel hypo DG hat clown that just had last locks with leopard, OD, phantom clown het DG, and OD phantom clown het DG. So I mean that could, if that hits, that could hit hard. I mean that could be a really, really awesome clutch. I've got 4 different girls done. We hatched, I don't know if you saw the Kryptons we hatched in 2021 when like Cryptic was first starting to be figured out. Like I didn't know what the hell it was, and I posted a picture of it and said, I'm not sure what it is, but it looks badass. Billy did it on the pick of the week. Will commented in there and said, looks like your DG male's got Cryptic. And what it ended up being was several, I think out of 9 eggs, 7 of them were 3+ gene combo Krypton het DGs. And so I held back the female. Well, I sold 1 female and 1 male, and a couple of other males in the clutch, but I held back 4 females. Well, they are due to lay on 6/12, 6/14, 6/16, and 6/28, and they're 4 clutch mates. So it's like, it's just crazy how they went exactly at the same time, clutch mates. But but yeah, man, that's one of the big projects we're working. I'm looking forward to next year getting into DG Clown Pod a little bit further.
Okay.
You know, it will be mostly triple het to triple het pairings because, you know, I've got the codoms I want to put in it, and with testing now, I mean, it doesn't make sense to me for me to go out and spend $10,000 or $12,000 on a male that would lower my odds from 50, you know, raise my odds to 50% from 25% when I've got, you know, 7, 8, 10 codoms in these, you know, these triple hets that, you know, I'm gonna hit it eventually. I mean, I've hit so many all gene animals from, you know, clown pairings and stuff like that. I'm not scared to try the triple het to triple het there. I don't want to make the base model. You know what I mean? I want to make one that's banging, man. You know.
What codoms you got in that project?
I've got an OD Inchy Gravel,
Okay.
triple het male, and then I've got several. Well, they won't breed. The first ones to breed next year aren't that exciting. It's a normal pastel and 2 pastel leopard triple hets.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, I can't hit things without pastel that are females if it's in the pairing. But but yeah, but then the next year I've got a bunch of his clutch that'll be ready to go. So hopefully, you know, I can hit something in one of these 4 clutches that's more of a visual male, you know, that kind of stuff. But you know, just doing the math on that, that's the way I do it. G-stripe clown something I'm still, you know, working pretty hard. You know, I'll have several pairings next year for that. I don't have anything this year for that. You know, the best stuff we can hit this year is some nice DG Clown, DG Pod combos that are head hypo, that sort of thing. I've got 8 in right now from, and what's cool is these are both girls I hatched, but it's from, no, actually these aren't, but it's Inchy Chocolate DG double het hypo clown to a chocolate butter DG double het hypo cryptic.
Okay.
So
okay.
so it's like it could, you know, I could hit hypo DG kryptons in there that with those genes, good lord, they could look crazy. You know, I mean, I think cryptic kind of gets overlooked a little bit because it just keeps popping up in collections. But when used the right way, I mean, it can, you know, you cut your odds from 25% to 50%. You know, when you're breeding a krypton versus breeding a double het. You know, so it's, I don't know, and testing just opened all kinds of. What Daniel says I'm not breeding enough, but you know, testing opens all kinds of doors for us, right? So you know, we can do things that we used to would maybe not chance it with, because I mean, you know, having a large collection of ball pythons is a lot of work, and I do this by myself. You know, I breed my own feeders. You know, but luckily I work from home. I do still have a job other than this, but you know, I work from home on the computer. It's time consuming in that I'm stuck at home a lot of hours a day, but it's not time consuming in the sense that I'm working steadily all day, you know, all day long. It's 20 minutes here, 30 minutes there, you know, that kind of stuff. Just whenever business is happening, that's when I'm working. But, you know, but I mean, I can be doing other things in the meanwhile, you know, so all day long I'm back and forth between, you know, snake or rodent mode and job mode, back to snake or rodent mode and everything. But over the years, I've gotten used to it. And, you know, it's really been challenging this year. And because, like, with all the different species that have been breeding, you know, I've had like 7 different feeding regimens for shit. It's like I've had to, you know, so I just finally got onboarded the Husbandry Pro. And you know, that's a game changer for me, just in the sense of what feeders do I need. You know, I mean, like as long as I keep my records straight, I can go on there in any day and just hit one button and print out a list of what I need to grab out of the freezer, or, you know, what I need to grab out of the rodent room. And it's always right. It doesn't make mistakes like I do going down my notepad with like, okay, these are my 3-day feeders. These are my 4-day. These are my 5-day. These eat on Monday and Friday. These are weekly on Monday. These are weekly on Wednesday, you know, and then what's really crazy is when all that shit lines up on the same day, and it's like, no, I'm not doing that. You know, we're gonna push them off. The ball pythons can eat tomorrow. You know what I mean? We're gonna do these today. But you know, you do have to, you know, shuck and jive a little bit, and you know, just like a vacation. Oh my God, we're going to the beach next month. You know, and thank goodness for the Harbins, because you know they'll keep an eye on stuff while we're away. And I've almost dodged a bullet. They may pull one ball python clutch, but everything should lay before we leave. I timed it out pretty good, or the snakes timed it out pretty good. I didn't have much to do with that. Where I think there's an 8-day window there that nothing's due to lay. There's some due to hatch, but they know what to do. I don't cut eggs, so I mean I let them pip on their own, and so I don't want to worry much about that. But I'll miss a couple of hognose clutches hatching, but there's nobody better I can think of. I'd rather be over here than Josh and Alicia when the hognose are crawling out. Because if there's an issue, I would be calling them anyway. So
Right.
them actually being here is like, yeah.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, that's
pretty
cool.
cool. But yeah, we've got, in addition to ball pythons, we've got Arizona Mountain King eggs, the Pyromelanas. A lot of people call them pyros.
What are those?
Do what?
The pyros. What are those?
Well, they're a montane species of king snake. They're honestly right now they're my favorite species as far as like interacting with. I'll grab one out. I got one right here. All right, what's up, homie? These guys right here.
Okay.
I mean, I jokingly call them like a king snake tree boa because they're so slender. I mean, this guy's a 2017, and he's the biggest one I've got. One of my females that laid 6 eggs that weighed 96 grams. The eggs only weighed 93 grams when I started pairing her. I mean, and she's 7 years old and a proven breeder. And this is a Applegate special hypo, which means like all the black and the white rings is reduced. So I've got 2 clutches from him to another Applegate that has some interesting pattern, and then to a head Applegate. And then I've got an amelanistic 50% head Applegate to a Applegate 100% head amelanistic. So hoping to prove him and hitting some what they call apple males, which is it's basically a hypo albino. But
is special hypo like is that one gene or
it's all one. The Applegate special hypo is just the full name for it. Most people just call them apples, in the pyro community. But they're, this guy's like king snakes. They're just so chill. Like I bred Florida Kings and Cali Kings back in the day, and they were just crazy. Look how this guy can just stretch his entire body. I wish he'd come up into the camera.
Yeah,
I mean, they can. Yeah, he's all the way. Don't get on that. We'll put
he
you
does
back.
seem like relatively chill, like from some of the other ones that I've seen.
Oh, they're cool.
Sometimes they're like all over the place.
Yeah, they're neat, man, and they live up in the mountains. They'll be fun to get started on food because they're lizard eaters, and the hognose kind of get a little bit of a bad rap for being tough to get started. These guys are major league in that department. A lot of them brumate the winter and then come out before they actually eat their first meal. But I'm gonna have to get some house geckos and freeze them and be ready to scent and wrap gecko skin around the pinky, and that there's all kind of like morbid ways you have to get these things to eat. And maybe I'll get lucky and all of them will eat. I've got 17 eggs from them, and then from Brandon Nixon. You probably know Brandon Nixon.
Oh yeah.
He well, I talked him out of an adult pair of Mexican pine snakes that he had because he's like, man, I'm not going to do anything with them, and they weren't brumated, and I was like, I don't know. I mean, they've been together anyway, so I just threw them together in quarantine and kept them in the same tub, and and then she started looking thick, and about the time that everything was good to go into the main room and all that stuff, I look in there and she's like blown up, just big. I'm like, I think she's grabbing, man. I put a lay box in there, and about a week later, she went in the shed and she gave me 5 good eggs, and there was like 13 slugs, but still, to even get any good eggs without brumating them amazed me. And 5's a good figure these little guys out, you know what I mean? Size clutch.
So you touched on it a little bit earlier, but like let's do a deep dive on because you're managing like multiple species and breeding multiple species. So speak to some of like the challenges of managing all those different species, particularly like the breeding and the husbandry piece of it.
The husbandry is honestly, I find the ball pythons a little bit harder than any of them in terms of cleaning, just because the size of the space that they're in and the substrate that is used. I mean, anytime you've got a high humidity wet substrate, like that's going to be a harder piece of plastic in the tub to clean than something that's just kept on aspen or pine, or like the hognose stay on Santa chips. I mean, it's almost like clumping cat litter. Like when you spot clean them, like I can just pick up clumps and it's clean. You know, I mean, they don't find a corner like a ball python does and crap a softball, you know, and smash it into the corner of the tub and then crawl through it, you know. But you know, so but the breeding aspect of it was that they kind of almost happen at different times, but the other ones are very much more regimented. Like with the ball pythons, I'm going by my scans, right? So, you know, once I've got a lock on all the females that have either been at least 6 months since they laid their last clutch, or females I'm ready to bring into the rotation, you know, then I'm going by scans specifically. And each Tuesday night, I sit down with my sheet and go through and decide which male is going to be paired to which female or which two females in any particular week. With those guys, it's more of a 1-to-1 ratio or 1-to-2 ratio. So, like with the I've got another one breeding. I forgot about the hypo tangerine Honduran milks. I was going to get one of those from, I called Ben Morrill on one of those, and he's like, well, I'm thinking about moving my adult. So the next thing I know, I've got 2 trios of the hypo het anery tangerine Honduran milks. But they pretty much live together all the time. So, you know, the male's in with 2 females. I'm feeding those on a 4-day regimen, a small meal every 4 days. That's kind of how you get them to, that their brumation is just kind of a dormant period where you don't feed them and you turn their hotspot off. But then, you know, Honduras, they're not going to see cool temps like the North American species would. So, but they do have a dormant period like most snakes do. And you trigger that dormant period by feeding very lightly, or, you know, for a 3-month period. And then you just kind of slam them with food, you know, for a few months. And that's what makes them build. But, you know, the male stays in with those females, and then I feed them every 4 days a small meal. And then every time I feed 2, and then I switch the males into them, and then I feed the other 2. So those have been a little bit of a challenge just because of that, how long it is. They probably won't lay until July is when Ben said he starts seeing eggs. I got a couple looking awful thick. I wouldn't be surprised if they beat that. I started pairing a little bit before he usually would, but you know, we'll just have to see. But, you know, the hardest thing for me to manage, like I said, has just been the feeding schedule. It's not really so much the breeding. It's not really the cleaning, because I've got that, you know, I mean, on Thursday, I know it's, you know, ball python tubs. On Friday, I know it's hognose, you know, I mean, as far as like anything that needs to be deep cleaned. And I do them both the same way. I go by sheds. You know, I mean, if you know, when a ball python in an adult tub shed, it gets a full dump and deep clean. You know, and sometimes if they've been off food a while, you know, something like that, I'll go ahead and give them a deep clean, see if that'll get them going too. And invariably they go in the shed like the next week, and then you have to clean it again. But you know, but I keep them on cypress. It's been a more stable substrate for us than coconut. So I've really enjoyed that switch. Saved a lot of time. And the hognose, you know, we've had some challenges this year. We've had some egg binding. We lost a couple of breeders to egg binding. They're very prone to it, and you know, they weren't obese or anything, but we probably did grow them maybe a little bit too fast. I don't know. Like I look back on it, and I've always followed that general rule of, you know, with colubrids, of feeding them something large enough to leave a, you know, a small but noticeable lump, you know. So, and if you go by that with hognose, you're going to overfeed them, you know, and I did it unknowingly. You know, I beat myself up big time about it, because not only did I lose 2 good females, these are snakes that I've interacted with and raised since they were 12 grams. And when they got up to 250 gram range, you know, I thought, well, they should be eating large mice, or, you know, adult mice anyway. And, you know, I should have been feeding them a 17, 18 gram mouse weekly, not a 25, 30 gram mouse weekly. And, you know, like that's something I probably kind of brought on myself a little bit. There was some luck involved too, you know. But Jeff Galewood, I would talk to him about it, and he explained, you know, that they produce a copious amount of eggs. Like it's insane. They reproduce like ASFs do. And, you know, an adult female will give you 30, 35, sometimes 40 eggs in a season. And
that's a lot.
So yeah, well, and normally in the wild, when they're going in that third winter, you know what I mean, or that third spring, or well, they're through their second winter into their third spring, they're you know, they're in the wild, they're going to breed that year usually, but they're 180 to 200 grams, something like that, and they're going to lay 6, 8, maybe 10 eggs, and maybe double clutch 2 or 3, you know, that sort of thing. Um, but they don't have problems. Well, when they grow, when you grow them that big before they breed, because most of mine were 275, 300 grams, somewhere in that range. You know, their oviducts prepared for a small clutch, and their body says you're big, so you're going to produce a big clutch, and then they just can't get them all out. So you know that was probably one of my biggest struggles and my low point of this year so far. Um, is having that happen. But I
I think
mean,
I heard you mention one time that like sometimes the female will eat the male. Did I hear that right?
that's a possibility. I mean, it does happen. That they're very food motivated. They sometimes will eat their own eggs. Like, if you don't catch them as soon as they're done laying eggs, a certain percentage of them will eat their eggs. I mean, some of them will eat them as they lay them.
Oh,
You
wow.
know, I luckily didn't experience that until my first double clutch of the year, which ended up being only 2 slugs. And she kind of slugged out the first one anyway. But I mean, she's healthy, so I'm like after losing 2, it was like I'm just happy she's healthy, and I may have one good egg in there. It's hanging on. It's kind of looking fuzzy, but man, I've seen gnarlier hognose eggs hatch, so we're going to incubate it anyway. I don't need the space in there, but she had laid 2 slugs. I looked in there and saw them. I was like, I'm doing something else. I'll get them later. I came in there to get them. They were gone, and I'm like, oh, okay, she ate them.
Is there anything you can do to like prevent like them from either eating the male or like doing any of that kind of like
Well,
unwanted behavior?
you have to when you're first introducing them, they're gonna, I mean, when you introduce 2 ball pythons, you don't have any worries. So you just kind of throw the male in there and do whatever your tracking system is. I mean, I've got like this is a male I've got paired right now. I've got this little clip on the females tab that lets me know there's a male in there, and it makes it easy to scan. Boom, boom. The male and the female together will record the pairing, that sort of stuff. But with them, as soon as you put the male in there and the female realizes that she does what we jokingly call the sexy dance. I mean, she'll start kind of ticking, and and once she does that, you don't have to worry about it. So pairing those takes a little bit more time because I put them in, and then you want to wait till the female does that before you leave the male in there. Especially if it's a smaller male, and I've bred a couple of smaller males to some pretty big females with a strong feeding response. So it was like, it was nerve wracking at first, but I never had any incidents or anything like that this year with any, but I mean, it can happen. And they're not snake eaters. It's just their feeding response is all it is. Like if they think there's food, it's like once you put the lay box in there, you're still feeding them. I mean, they'll eat right up until, I mean, they usually cut off the day or 2 before they lay. But, the minute they lay, they're ready. It doesn't matter, they're ready for food. So that's usually what happens when eggs get eaten is, like when I see one laying, I set a timer event on my watch for an hour and I go back and check, and then I repeat that timer and, count the eggs, see what they are. If I saw her eating eggs, I'd reach in and grab what's in there out and let her lay them and get as many as I could, can out of it. But yeah, no, they're a challenging species, but man, they are just so freaking cool that I've invested quite a bit in those, and they're a big part of the future of what we're going to do.
Nice, nice. That's what's up. So from what I can see, like it seems like you do like pretty well in sales and stuff. So talk to some of like your sales strategy and like some of the underlying tactics that you use with making sure that you're getting your snakes out there and converting sales. And if I remember correctly, I know you have like a sales background or you do something in sales now.
Yeah, I've been in the automotive industry since the late 1999, I think is when I started. So I cut my teeth there, like, selling, vehicles. And it was maybe 3 years before I went into finance. Then I was the sales manager. Then I was the general sales manager. And then I was getting offers from everywhere. And, I mean, I kind of accidentally found really good at. And, you know, I think what made me good at it is I was honest and straightforward with people. I didn't tell them what they wanted to hear. I told them what, you know, what time it was, you know, and it you know, I always said I'm not a car salesman, you know what I mean? Like I'm just the dude that sells cars, you know what I mean? It's totally different. But I learned a lot about digital, the digital realm, which is what I do for them right now. Like for our dealership, if you send an inquiry in through our website, through cars.com, Car Gurus, any of the litany of websites that we have our inventory hosted on, you know, your first response is going to come from me. And, you know, then what I do is I just basically make the handoff introduction to one of the salespeople when they're going to come in, or set an appointment for the sales manager. Then I manage your inventory on the website, inventory feeds, and all that. It sounds like a lot. It's not if you stay on top of it. You know, I mean, if you do it as it comes, then, you know, and that's not any different than Morph Market. So, you know, I'd say probably 75% of our sales are online, 25% are at shows. You know, we right now only do the NARBC shows, and, you know, we're going to do all 6 of them again this year, and then we're going to reassess next year. There's a couple we haven't done that good at, but I really like supporting Brian and Bob. They run a good show, and, you know, I have a lot of fun at all their shows, whether we sell anything or not. So it's, you know, we usually can at least cover, you know what I mean? But, and there's so many people through the door at those shows that it's just hard to compete with that, because I work Saturdays. Like Saturdays is a big day for me with the job. So for me to be gone a Saturday, I'm already pushing the limit with taking, you know, because when we go to a show, like our closest one's 8 hours away. So we always leave Thursday morning, drive in Thursday night, get to set up early Friday, get it set up and everything, and kind of just, you know, make a long weekend out of it. And then I'll take Monday off too to get everything back under control here. So that's 6 times I'm taking off Thursday, you know, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Monday, plus the week vacation. But it was kind of a trade-off where I was like, look, I'll only take 1 week-long vacation a year instead of 3, but I need 6 long weekends a year, you know what I mean? And we kind of, you know, they kind of okay with that. Because, I mean, I answer leads on Sundays and holidays and all that stuff too, because, I mean, I'm going to be on the computer probably anyway. You know, I might as well just, you know, knock them out and get first responses out to the people that need information. And it's not that much different than snakes. And, you know, I think one of the things I did early on was I'm not going to give up Dallas. Oh man, we just love Mission Morphs. They were some of the first people we met in Texas. Arlington was always our best show, and you know, I kind of hate that it had to move to downtown Dallas. You know what I mean? But it's not. I mean, it wasn't the promoter's fault. I mean, they turned the freaking they turned the expo center into an art gallery. So, I mean, they had to go somewhere, you know, so it was a little bit different, but it was the first time, you know, and it was changing something that has been the same way for a long time. And nobody likes that, right? You know, I mean, it's like we were talking a little bit of football before you started, you know, nobody likes, they're not going to play certain people in the SEC every single year anymore, you know, I mean, and football, basketball, it's almost like they're not even part of the conference anymore, you know, sometimes. But, you know, it's, you know, those shows do really good, but the customer service is the biggest thing for me. Like taking care of people, like, you know, if somebody, I know I've bought snakes from people that I've spent a lot of money on, you know, a year of college on. You know what I mean? That, you know, that I would turn around and send a message, and it might be 3 days, you know, before I hear back from them, if I hear back from them at all, you know. And I don't know. I don't ever want to be that guy. I don't ever want to be the one that, like, doesn't reply to a message. You know, I take pride in my response time on Morph Market, you know, getting back in touch with people. If somebody wants pictures, I'll take them pictures. Shit, it's not that hard. I mean, I don't know why so many people freak out about taking people pictures. I mean, it's just, it's staggering sometimes, the low level of, God, this is going to sound insulting. I don't mean it to be, but the low level of sales experience that you see, and people are often complaining that, you know, the market's dead or the market's bad. you've got to use every outlet you got right now. You know, I mean, like
Right.
right now, auctions, sales, you know, wholesale. You've got to be active on social media. You've got to be active on podcasts. I mean, I haven't done a lot of podcasts, and you know, I mean, I love watching them. I love listening to them. I obviously love talking. You know, but it's, you know, I'm really careful because it's so easy to offend somebody now that it's like I don't want to say the wrong thing, you know, and so I've been really careful, and you know, you run a really good show, man, and I'm definitely proud to be on it.
I appreciate it, brother. I appreciate it. Appreciate the support. Hey, we're gonna take a real quick sponsor break, and then we'll be right back to chat some more.
Cool.
Peace and love, family. We invite you into the heart of our serenity, Ancestral Royal Pythons. At Ancestral Royal Pythons, we're not just breeders, we're nurturers of love and growth. Each of our high-end ball pythons is a tribute to the grandeur of the natural world and our dedication to quality. Reach out today and bring one of our creations into your home. This is Ancestral Royal Pythons. Your journey begins here.
Here's to the exciting world of Ebony and Ivory reptiles. From unforgettable parties and events to keeping and hatching some of the dopest reptiles in the reptile hobby, we're all about education, quality, integrity, and respect. Hit us up and see how we can help make your next project a reality. Experience Ebony and Ivory Reptiles, where fascination meets fun.
Ebony and Ivory Reptiles.
Shout out to the homie Matt. Shout out to the homie Jason. Yeah, man, customer service is huge, man. Like, that's something that I pride myself in as well. Just kind of like, it just really kind of goes well with like the professional experience and stuff that I've had. And I think it's big in terms of like for your brand and kind of like getting your name out there, just being real professional about the stuff you do. Like at the end of the day, yeah, we're like professional snake poop cleaners and rodent poop cleaners.
Yeah, sanitation engineers is what I call
them. But you are dealing with the public. You are dealing with other people like in the business, customers, what have you. So it's like it's super important to have like that customer service kind of mindset, because I feel like that goes a long way in the end, and then professionalism, like all that kind of stuff goes a long way in the long term.
Oh man, you'll appreciate this. This was funny. So like two Christmases. This doesn't have anything to do with snakes, but 2 Christmases ago, you know, my wife Beth Ann, several people, but she does all the shows with me, and we get down at shows. We have a good time. But 2 Christmases ago, we had been talking before that. We were driving around, and you know how there would be like the homeless people at the on ramps and stuff like that. I mean, like she would buy like a Sam's Club pack of crackers, you know what I mean, and like pull over and give a pack of crackers and stuff like that. And I'm like, baby, I appreciate that sentiment, but you don't know who these people are. Like, you know, that's I mean, that scared me, you know what I mean? And it was like, you know, we live in Tennessee. It's a constitutional carry state. I'm going to buy you a gun. So I bought her a little 380 to keep in the door of her Jeep. So, you know, just if something does happen, you know, it's just a point and pull the trigger thing. You know, hopefully, God, she never has to use it. But if she's going to do stuff like that I think is irresponsible, but I'm not going to have that argument with her because she'll win. Yeah. So I went into Academy Sports to do the paperwork on it because, you know, I had to do the background check and all that stuff. And one of the guys looked at my ID and he said, "Wait a minute, you're Brian Carter from BC's Balls?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And like he went and got like 4 other guys. My son was there. He went and got like 4 other guys, brought them over, and they're like, "Man, we're look." And they turned the computer around, had my website up like right then and everything. and one of the guys said, "Man, we get all kind of celebrities in here. Philip Fulmer was in here the other day, but this is way cooler." And I looked at him, I was like, "Dude, you need to like check your priorities, man." I was like, I am just an old gray-haired dude that breeds snakes that, you know, I mean, there is nothing glamorous at all about what I do. You know, I mean, it's, I appreciate the support. And he's like, "Man, you're hatching some next level stuff." I'm like, you know, maybe, yeah, I mean, I appreciate that for sure. Don't get me wrong. And one of the things that was scary is like it's just been in the last 30 days that we've added the and Reptilia to BC's balls because it's kind of a soft rebrand. Because I mean, I'm not saying I'm getting out of ball pythons, but I'm growing the other parts of the collection as opposed to growing the ball pythons, if that makes sense. So like, I
Makes
mean,
sense.
I'm done growing here. I'm cutting back the projects that, honestly, I've kind of ran their course for me, and let's move some of those snakes on to people who want to work with that stuff because I mean, there's there you know how it is, man. I mean, there's everybody in this hobby, industry, business, whatever it is, to whoever you are, that want a good deal on a snake. And whenever I sell adults, I usually end up doing that either through the auction or through social media, something like that, because I mean, to me, they've already done their job for me. Let them do their job for somebody else. I'm not trying to maximize every penny I can squeeze out of them. I mean, that's what the breeding is for. When it comes time, I'm getting rid of that snake for tub space. Because I need that tub for another snake that needs to go in that tub. And
Absolutely.
and I've got to get this tub, this rack, cleared out, and because there's going to be hognose that are going to need to move into that in about 10 to 12 months. So, I'm cutting back some of my single recessive projects. I sold the last of my codon girls this year. And then I'm getting rid of, I've kind of got a pecking order. I think I'll be able to cut out most single recessive hets. I'm going to keep my lace stuff because I hatched it and I still want to hit white lace clowns. I'm not going to I mean, I will always make clowns. I don't care if they're worth $300. I mean, confusion clowns to me, that's one of the things I think that's blown my mind the most about this downturn. I'm going to go on a rant about this, but you know, for years, I mean, confusion clowns are, in my opinion, the coolest looking clowns there are. I mean, people can make an argument for stranger or stuff like that, but to me, confusion's my favorite gene in clown. And we hatched these amazing the confusion spot nose Russo yellow belly clown female and 1.1 confusion black pastel spot nose yellow belly clown. And I mean, I've got the stuff to make that, but I mean, I can make that again. So I mean, I listed some of it, and I sold an entire display of Wookiee clown stuff at Tinley, and not a single one of the confusion clowns. And I even considered holding them back to just bring them to Tinley to show them the first time. I'd have really felt like an idiot if I'd have done that, And then, but I don't really understand what happened there. But I hear so many people come up to me and say, "Well, confusion doesn't eat." And that's a rumor that's been perpetuated. I mean, I'm sure I'm not discounting the people who say that, you know what I mean, about their one animal that they have. Or, I think what happened is in the original line of confusion / acid, because we all know they're the same thing, static for that matter. But I think in the original line there was probably some poor feeders, that got bred, and a certain percentage of that offspring spring genetically were poor feeders. Of the 13 males that are in the rack right here behind me, I've got 4 on food, and one of them's my 1,800 gram confusion spot nose yellow belly clown that has never missed a meal, and he's never gone off food breeding, and this is his 3rd year breeding for me.
Oh, nice.
None of his females went the first year. Last year we hit some amazing stuff. This year he's got Wookiee. Let's see, he's confusion spot nose yellow belly. He's got Wookiee super vanilla hat done. He's got chocolate cinnamon hat done, and there's one more. Oh, OD leopard phantom clown done. So that should be some interesting colors. I was hoping to get some of my lace stuff with him, but my lace stuff's not doing anything this year. It's just like nope, taking the year off. So and they and their animals, and that's one of the biggest differences I see between the ball pythons and the colubrids is once the colubrids reach maturity, if I brumate them and bring them out and I pair them, they're laying something. 100% of them. You know what I mean? Like they're
nice.
now they may if they don't get fertilized, they're going to lay slugs. And that kind of stuff. But they're going to lay something. I've had a couple of frustrating years in a row. We did 45 clutches in 2022 and paired 82 females. So I mean that was over 50%. When you're putting that many females to one male and that kind of stuff, you can't expect to have 70 or 80% of them to go. It's just not going to happen. A small percentage of them, if you paired them once a month, you could push them along. You know what I mean? But you can't do that when one male's seeing 12 females. I mean, you have to just use the females that are going to build without that pushing and prodding. The people will argue that pairing doesn't matter. I mean, consistently over the years, I've seen my males that have 3 or 4 females, like 3 or 4 of those females are going to go almost every year that I pair them, where I have a male that's seeing 12 females, 4, maybe 5, of those 12 are going to go, has been my general experience. But, that's one of the biggest differences between the two is I can manage a much smaller collection of the colubrids, especially with the number of eggs the hognose lay. We'll have 10 breeding females next year. We had 8 this year. We had 8, but I only paired 7 of them because one of them did some crazy going off food at the end of the year last year, and she didn't go back on out of brumation. I'm like, let's just wait and see. And then the window had passed, and she's like, okay, now I'll eat every time you offer me something. So, hopefully she'll go next year. But we'll have 10 next year, 20 the next year. My goal is to have 40 by the following year.
Okay.
Which a lot of those would be the ones that we're holding back from this year.
Gotcha.
And 40 hognose, that's, you can get upwards of 1,000 babies from that. So somewhere I've got to find the time and space, for that. And I still want to maintain a ball python collection, just a more refined ball python collection. I think right now with the state of the industry, is it strong? But somebody in Bob's Discord said something the other day that I can't remember exactly. It was Timmy who said it, but he said he knew a guy that used to say, I always love a good recession because it, weeds the people out without any backing, that kind of stuff. So it's like, but I mean, that's kind of what we're in. We're coming back. But when people talk about prices, I mean, Dreamsicle is an example I like to use because I listened to one of your shows today, and I can't remember, who was, I think it was Sloan. But you guys were talking about dreamsicles and how it took him so long to hit a dreamsicle. Well, I've got a 2018 female dreamsicle and a 2019 female dreamsicle I bought in 2020 that I've managed to get one clutch out of one of them of 6 eggs to a blackhead pied het lavender, and now, and I hit one dreamsicle in the clutch. It is a blackhead dreamsicle, and she's still listed. But that I haven't had good luck with that project either.
Hey, real quick, shout out to the homie Big Ed from Static Morphs 262 in the building. Good evening to you as well, my brother. Appreciate the super chat. Hey, so I want to circle back a little bit to the confusion stuff and what you were saying about that. So like the theory you just had as far as like the feeders and whatnot, I think that's a plausible theory and why I say that is I hear like different people like with different experience with confusion. Like some people like all my confusions eat great. I don't have any issues. Some people, none of my confusions eat. Some people it's like some of their confusions eat sporadically. I'm kind of in that middle camp where I got like quite a bit of confusion in my collection and they eat decently. You know what I mean? Like but when they do eat, like they're eating. And so when they're eating, like I take advantage of that because I don't know next time they're gonna be like eating like that. And so like as far as like probably overall growth rate, I haven't really like noticed like any difference like compared to non-confusion animals, but I have noticed that mine at least are kind of like sporadic eaters sometimes. So I think that is like a good theory you got as far as like some of them coming from like some problem eaters, and maybe that's just kind of like been spread through, but then there's others that eat great. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've only bought one confusion animal, and that's the male that sired every other confusion animal I have. You know what I mean? Okay. So it's I think and I got him from Corey DeLong in I think it was 2020, maybe 2021.
That's confusion stuff too.
Yeah, and this was early on. This was a chunk of change, but I picked up this boy, and I made the comment to Corey, and he said it was his best eating confusion clown he ever had, that he hatched that year. There's I knew somebody else that got one from the same clutch that he was having problems with it, but he came and got a couple of ASFs for me and tossed them in there, and then the snake started growing because he'd just been steadily trying rats, but he hadn't tried the ASFs yet. And that's primarily what I feed my collection is ASFs. I breed way more. I've in this room I've got 178 adults right now, and I only maintain 11 rat colonies because I've got 8 or 9 snakes in here that are on rats because they've either just laid and they're on the cut list, and I want to get them back on rats before I sell them, or which usually involves offering a rat, and now they're back on rats. But and then I've got a few that just won't take an ASF. I've probably got more that won't take an ASF than I do that won't take a rat.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've got 7 total females in here that just, they'll hit and kill an ASF and leave it laying there, and I can drop a rat in there and they'll hit it, eat it with the ASF laying there, and then go curl up on the hot spot. And I come back and I'm like, well, you ate, and pull the ASF out, and I just gave up on a couple of them, even trying to get them to switch. So my experience has been the exact opposite. I've had a harder time getting them off, getting some of them off rats, than I have off off ASFs. But yeah, that's the main thing. And then I just started 4 colonies of mice for the colubrids, because once those mouse orders started hitting $400 or $500, I'm like, yeah, now I'm gonna get some mice started, because with all these babies, I'm gonna need a lot of pinks, and I'm gonna need some fresh red hot pinks, that are live, because sometimes they need live to get started. So I've never had good luck with mice. Like, I've got the rats down, I've got the ASFs down. Every time I've tried to breed mice, they were just Hannibal Lecter murderous little. I'd look in there and there'd be like 18 babies. I'm like, yeah, they're finally gonna do it. And then I look out there the next day and all I see is like heads and legs and tails, all over the top. I'm like, what did I do to you to do, that you're gonna do this to me? But hopefully this line I got, Josh and Alicia have been raising these for me. they brought them in, so hopefully I can get these going, and they'll be all all kosher. But
shout out to the homie John. He says, great show. Needs to pay for these nuggets that you dropping, man. I really appreciate the support, bro. More Forge in the building.
Well, man, one thing is, if you ask me a question one time, I'm going to tell you the truth, whether it's what you want to hear or not. And that's really like, and I have to be that way with myself, because if I'm not that way with myself, then I'm not gonna get from point A to point B. That's and that's why I had to kind of have a checkup when I sat back. John and Bridget with Mission Morphs got a Confusion. What was it? A Confusion Cinnamon Double Het G-Stripe Clown mail from me at Dallas. They said it's already 362 grams. It was
Nice.
like 250 then. Like I said, I had somebody tell me that at Dallas, and about the 10th person that told me that, I said, I'll tell you what, I said, I'll put a stack on the desk that the next feeding day I'll FaceTime you, and I'll feed every one of my Confusion animals a frozen thawed rat. And if 100% of them don't eat, the stack shares. I said, if they do, you got to buy one Confusion animal from me. And wouldn't nobody take the bet? Because I promise you, when I go in there, they're the ones that are going to go. Oh, that's awesome, John. Yeah, John picked up that the Jersey guys. He picked up the 2 Kryptons in 2021. That when's she due to lay, John? What's the date? So you said this week.
This week.
So yeah, mine are like 2 weeks behind you, I think. Oh, all 6. That's what you were saying. So my 4 and his 2.
Yeah, that's crazy.
They're all due to lay
All
within the
6
same
of
like
them.
5-week period.
That's
just
crazy.
so wild. And then I've got girls that I've hatched that are 4 years old that have given me 3 clutches. And I know people are like, how is that possible? I'm like, well, I hatched her in March of 2020. She hatched her in March of 2020. She gave me a clutch in 2022, 2023, and she just gave me one in 2024. So that's how that happens. And I feel like I feel like with ASFs, man, they just grow so much faster. Some of the holdbacks that I decided to let go, it shows, because I don't maintenance feed my hatchlings that I have. I do skip the week before a show. I do that on my for sale snakes, just because I don't want to throw them in the shed, and I don't want them clean up any more poop than I have to, and they'll be fine going 1 week without food. So and but other than that, I feed my for sale hatchlings every week the same way. I do my holdbacks. Now, some of my holdbacks I feed every 5 days, but there was some there was some that I decided to list later in the year that I still had some listed that had been eating a similar size rat pup, and they were almost twice the size. You know, they were, 320 grams versus 180. That kind of stuff. And but I put them back on rats because I'm trying to sell them. But most everything, as well as I do, 95% of the snakes, if they're going to eat that week, they will eat a mouse, a rat, or a ASF. It doesn't matter what you drop in the front of their tub. If they're not going to eat that week, it probably doesn't matter which one of the three you drop in their tub either. I feel like the confusion stuff is definitely genetic. I feel like it comes down from the beginning, animals that were first brought in because, that acid, I think, I forget, can't believe I'm drawing a blank on his name, but the guy that proved acid, Josh Jesse, the guy that proved acid, and then I think Justin brought in confusion from Europe, I believe. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I know confusion came from Europe, and he proved acid in the U.S., and they're just too much the same to not be the same. I think RGI said they're probably within a couple of weeks of being able to confirm that, they are the same. Somebody told me that. I didn't say that on a video, so don't quote me if I'm wrong. But I think that's what they said. I saw those going out because one of the things I think that's all this naming the same shit with the same. It's like you have the triplets hurricane thing. You banana coral globe, butter lesser, mystic phantom. The Mocha Russo. The list goes on and on and on and on of all these genes that are the same thing that have different names. And morph markets at least started trying to put labels on the ones that have been genetically proven that way from RGI. I've lobbied for a while that I think confusion and acid need to be merged, but you can call it confusion/acid. Like you can make a channel 2 different lines of the same gene if somebody wants to do that. But if you're looking for a pair of confusion animals right now, or acid animals, or static for that matter, which I believe are the same thing. I think most people believe are the same thing, if not all. But it's awesome. Thank
Shout
you,
out to Alicia. Finally getting to hang out with Brian. Yeah.
I know it's been a while. We've both been so damn busy. She's a veterinarian, and we've hung out and trying to draining eggs in a hognose belly, and when my dog needed shots and shit like that. But it's like we haven't got to like hang out on the boat because she's had some family stuff going on, and we've had it's just been crazy, So Dallas, hell, it wasn't that long ago, but it feels like it was, and I guess our next show is Schaumburg.
Appreciate you, Alicia.
Didn't that static come because of acid and confusion? I honestly don't know. Will I never paid much attention to static, and when I bought the confusion, and then later learned that acid was the same thing because I bought my confusion pretty early on, not in the working of the gene, but in it kind of becoming more widespread, and acid kind of took off at the same time, and now there's confusion and acid. I'd have people come up to me at shows and be like, I hatched some confusion and confusion yellow belly lavenders, and I'd have people come up to me in Arlington or Tinley and be like, man, if that was only acid, I could really use that. I'm like, well, they did the same thing, and they'd be like, really? I'm like, yeah. And they'd be like, no. And I'd be like, dude, go right down there and ask Josh Lundberg at Ball Python Shed if confusion and acid are the same thing. And he will tell you yes. So go ask anybody at any table in here, and if they work with it, they'll tell you yes. Because that's, and I've sold people confusion animals that have bred them to an acid animal that produced, not super. Every gene has a super, but I believe both of them are dominant genes that have no visible super,
right.
Just like a super pin, a super leopard, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, man, I know you first get in like all the different ones with the same name. All the same genes with different names, like that can get confusing really quick.
Well, yeah,
learn all that stuff.
Confusion is the right name for it because that's what it is. It's like, so if you're I got sidetracked, but I was saying if somebody wanted to buy a pair, they would have to search male confusion, male acid, male static, female confusion, female acid, female static, and then compile together which ones of those they like the best, and then go back and research it Where if it was all under just one category, just one confusion acid static. But I mean, I understand why Morph Market doesn't do it. They want RGL to prove it genetically first, and that does make sense. I mean, that they've done it on the other ones, just like, if I post a butter animal, it's going to say under it butter and lesser, proven genetically to be the same thing, that kind of stuff. So I'm glad to see them being proactive about it. I just would like to, also see them hurry up and prove this stuff wrong, because I think it hurts the project. And it's a big part of my stuff. Clown this year, redhead confusion, and not really doing much Wookiee with a male, more redhead confusion. And I'm gonna have quite a bit of Cypress clowns. I haven't hatched many Cypress combos, and I've got Cypress clown going to banana GHI clown, OD spot nose Russo clown, and then just a fire yellow belly het clown. That's my first holdback that I've held on to for way too long, but she lays big clutches. So, you hit some decent odds there. I mean, that's going to be some pretty snakes that'll, sell as, pets, or who knows who needs that for a project,
Yeah, I'm working quite a bit of Cypress stuff this year too, because one of the males that I got like with Cypress in it, he like a super powerful breeder. And so like where I've had like some males who weren't necessarily like getting the job done, I've been kind of like subbing him in, and he just go right in there with his lunchbox, get right to work, do his thing.
Well, and that's the thing. I don't know if it's because I let my males get bigger than some people do, stuff like that. I've never really had an issue yet with a male that like wouldn't lock. Now I've had females that have been like, I don't want that male. Like I've had to get to my third male on a female before, and then I get down to my third male and I put him in there, and I come back 45 minutes later and they're locked, and you're like, how the hell, you're 520 grams. How the hell did you lock with her when my 1,800 grams? But yeah, it's they're interesting, man. But people always say, I wish they could talk. They talk to you. You just got to pay attention. You got to watch what they're doing. It's I can tell you on feeding day when I open a tub of a ball python if that snake's going to eat or not that day, probably with 95% accuracy. You know what I mean? Like, it's like
they give you the signs. Like, as soon as you open the tub, you know if he's going to eat or not.
And right now I'm in that spot where I've got, a lot that are absorbing, a lot that are getting to the higher follicle sizes and males off feed. So, I've got to where I'm just offering my males every, the ones that are off food, I'm offering them right now every other week instead of every week. And, I'm so overloaded with ASFs. I wish they would start eating so I don't have to take so many back to the room. But, there's just not a big market for rodents here, because everyone here that's left breeding snakes, a lot of people have sold out that are local, and pretty much everybody left breeding their own rodents. So, they don't have a lot of value. I donated so many to the zoo that they filled up a freezer with them, and they give them as treats to like their gators and their caimans. And, I know the curator, so we can go to the zoo and play around behind the scenes with some of the stuff they got and everything. But
how many colonies of ASFs are you running?
I was running 32, but I start a new one each week and call the oldest one. So I was running 2 and 6, 32, and a 50-32 ARS. So the top right tub would get called every week, and the bottom right tub would be a new colony I would start. So the bottom tub, they weren't dropping pinkies till they got to the 4th tub. They weren't weaning till they got to the 8th tub. So I'm weaning from 24. The problem comes where I only have so much grow out space. So I only want to keep the males, because the males grow so much faster than the females do. If I had unlimited space, I'd just, keep them all or start trying to sell them more. But, the females, I pretty much, they got to go somewhere. Like, and I mean, I'll put out, I got 250 ASF wings, $100, come get them, that kind of stuff. And, I can get rid of them that way. I've donated some to the zoo and, get a little tax write-off for that. But, it's better than the alternative, which is not having enough. I went through that too with a food change, and that, I bought the first feeders other than frozen mice. I've been buying the frozen mice for the hognose, but other than that, as far as ASFs go, I bought my first ones. I tried to switch. I feed Tucker Milling feed, which is it's out of Alabama. I mean, I don't know if you can get it down there that we've got, but it's in Tennessee, and I started using it, and everybody and their brother I knew was feeding Combat 23, and I'm like, man, I really like the kibble, the size of it better. It doesn't fly around. It's not the big giant chunks, you know, a lot easier to put in the trays and all that stuff. But I mean, damn, man, it killed like half my room. You know, I mean, it was
Oh wow.
like they just did not do well on it, and it was disgusting. It was when my son was still in high school. And on Monday, after I'd feed adults, we'd rotate grow outs, you know what I mean? And then get ready for me to do the colonies and bring the weans over. And, I mean, they had such bad diarrhea. I mean, I'll just say it. I mean, they had such bad diarrhea that like he would wear gloves just to pick them up by the tail. And we thought it was just, we kept thinking it's just the food change, it's going to get better. It's just the food change, it's going to get better. Because even people I've sold their line of ASFs too that are feeding Combat 23 are doing fine. You know, I mean, and it's like, okay, it's going to get better. And then it just never did. And I finally got to the point where I'm like, okay, we're going back to Tucker. And when we finished that pallet, we got our next delivery. We got a pallet of Tucker, put it in there on top of the racks. 7 days later, we had no diarrhea left at all. Like it was insane. But I think it's environmental. My room doesn't have the best ventilation, and the smell when I'm feeding Tucker, I don't know what it is in it, but the smell when I'm feeding Tucker doesn't, like, even after a week when I'm in there doing it, there is no ammonia smell. You know, ASFs don't really smell anyway, and only having 11 rat colonies, then it's not a big room, but it's a couple hundred square feet, you know, and the you know, you can smell the rats a little bit. I can smell the mice now that I got 4 mice in there, because I mean that they have a distinct smell. But you know, it's not overwhelming or overbearing, you know, in there or anything like that. But still, like, I think the lack of ventilation probably had something to do with it.
Mhm.
But I don't know. I've been back on the Tucker milling for a while now, and you know, as long as they keep putting it out. I
So
had
you
a
said
big
32 colonies of 2.6,
2.6, yeah, that's
and
what I ran.
production wise, like, well, hey, do you track the production? Like, do you count?
Not really. I count how many I wean, but you know, I mean, it's such ebb and flow because it seems like it comes in waves. You know what I mean? Like I'll have 2 weeks in a row where I'll weigh 400, 450, you know, and then I'll have 2 weeks in a row after that I'll only weigh 150 to 200, you know, because it seems like they almost sync up, for lack of a better word. And plus, you'll
Yeah,
also go through
yeah,
that cycle where 4 females drop at the same time. Uh, you know, 4 females would drop at the same time, and those get up to fuzzy size. So now there's 70, 60, 70 fuzzies in there. And now the other 2 females decide they want to drop pinks. Well, they end up under the fuzzies and just smothered. So, you know, I kind of call those short cycles the smother cycle. It's like, you know, the ones that just were born in a colony where they just never had a chance to survive because there's too many. But, you know, I've noticed that 32 weeks is about the max for a colony for me. And now it's going to be 28 weeks. So I'll really be keeping them in their prime better because I cut back to the 4 mouse colonies to make room for the 4 mouse colonies. But now I got to have mouse grow out. So I'm like, okay, well, how am I going to do that exactly? So, you know, I may end up cutting back to 24 ASF colonies and having the mouse colonies and then 4 50 series tubs for grow out, because I don't need big mice. I just need to be able to grow out maybe some holdbacks to replace the colonies, or, you know, to grow them up from weans to smalls, you know, because I don't have a need for a mouse over 20 grams, you know. So once they hit that, you know, range, I'm going to, you know, freeze them and shrink wrap them and start, you know, keeping it. And I love like the in Husbandry Pro, that feeder inventory thing's freaking cool. You know, I mean, it's like, you know, every time I feed snakes, you just watch it go down and go down, and then you set the alerts, let you know when to order. It's pretty awesome, man. I resisted the change for so long too, because I'm an old school Reptile scan user. Like, I had Reptile scan when it was, you paid $25.99 for the app and you got all the functionality free. You know what I mean? And then Husbandry Pro came out, and they started out charging a monthly subscription, and then Reptile Scan's like, oh, well, let's do the first update in a decade, and now we'll start charging a monthly subscription too. And you know, but I was grandfathered in because I'd already bought the app. But anybody that, you know, was not because you could buy, let's say it was like you can get the app for $5.99 or you can get premium for $25.99, which unlocked all the features. Because I bought premium in the beginning, I was able to keep all those features, but it just goes so slow compared to Husbandry Pro, and it's just not as robust. And probably 75% of Husbandry Pro I'll never use, but the 25% I use is I've only had it for set up for 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, and I'm already, maybe a month, but I'm already like amazed at what I'm seeing from it. You know what I mean? As far as like making things easier, especially on the feeder end. I mean, there's nothing worse than going to feed 40 snakes and you thaw out 38 feeders. and then you don't realize till you get to the last few tubs that, oh, well, now I got to go run some hot water and thaw out 2 more feeders, let them thaw out, you know, drain it out, let them get hot. And now the snake's been smelling food for an hour and a half now. Is it still going to eat? Is it not going to eat? You know, and what's even worse is when you finish feeding everybody and now you've got 5 left in the bucket. And you're like, well, how the hell did I get that wrong? I literally had it all out on a notepad, and like I'd scroll down and I'd pull by species. That way I thought I would get it right. And I'd always get it wrong. And man, being able to go in there and just go to the feeder section and hit print feeder list and go to the refrigerator with that feeder list. And when I'm done, I feed the last snake and I just pull the last rodent out of the bucket. I'm like, man, that's worth the cost of admission right there.
Beautiful thing right there. Shout out to the homie Mike from Blackheart Exotics. He says negative air pressure will mess with the colonists. Stool is something that does get affected by it. What does it mean with like negative air pressure? What does that mean? You know?
I'm going to try and explain it. He could probably explain it better than I can. So if you the reason like the stand-up air conditioners, you've seen the kind that like sit on the floor on wheels but run a hose to the window.
Mm-hmm.
So one of those creates negative air pressure because it's taking air from the room and pumping air back into the room without pulling in air from outside. What the hose is for is letting the hot air from where the compressor's running out the window. So if you don't have proper ventilation, which I mean, I definitely don't. I've used the room successfully for 8 years, but it's definitely not optimal. It's not what I would build if I was like going to build my rodent room, but it works. It gets the job done. And so, I run a window unit air conditioner in there, which doesn't, create, near as much air pressure, as what one of those floor units would, because it's actually taking air from the inside, moving it outside. I did put vents on the doors, and that's made it a lot better. So my experiment might work better now. But then I just like nail a piece of foam insulation over the vent in the winter when I put the heater up, and because I can't keep it ventilated. With ASF's, cold is the enemy. It's not heat.
Yeah.
Like my air conditioner could go out, I'd lose all my rats. I'd be all right. My ASFs would be like chilling. I'd be like, this is awesome. It's 98 degrees in here. I love it. Yeah, exactly. But the rats don't really like that, and I don't like that. I mean, the air conditioner is as much for me as it is for them, because I spend so much time working in there that it's when it's hot outside, it's nice to walk into a 73, 74 degree room. And I've got 8,000 BTUs, and I misstated my square footage. It's 20 feet long by 5. It's 20 feet long by 6 feet wide, so it's 120 square feet. My 5032 rodent rack, the ARS rodent rack, is the only professional style rack I've got. The rest of the wooden mortar type racks, that's on my grow outs. But it splits the room and creates a wall. There's about a 1/2 inch clearance on each side of it. Like, okay. I measured it before I ordered it, and when I looked at it, I was like, man, this shit better fit, and I had to bring it in there one level at a time and stack it that way. Like, there's no way to turn it or anything like that. But, we got it all in there, and, it's just like everything else. You learn over time. Like, a lot of the stuff that I do, the reason I do it the way I do it is because I did it another way and it was way harder. And then that's just like, I remember doing water bottles when I first started. I'd have to go out there every damn day, and fill these water bottles. So now I'm like, well, what am I going to do? I'm going to buy 2 sets of water bottles. That way I can just take a big tub out there with me and pull all the old ones and just put new ones in and bring the old ones in and dump them. Okay, well, that was more efficient, but what's more efficient than that? Okay, let's put a gravity water system in. So we did that. And then when I got the ARS rack, it came with 1 5-gallon bucket. And it was like, when I first started using it, it was a rat maternity rack. I was running like, 1 male and 7 or 8 females in each of my 11 tubs. And I had holding tubs for the females. So whenever, you know, whenever I'd pull 2 pregnant ones out, I'd just throw 2 of the ones from the holding tub back in, and I'd do, you know, maternity tubs with the rats. That worked really good with them, but when I started ASFs, that was completely, you know, a completely different ballgame.
Yeah, the water bottles is not sustainable long term. Right now, like most of our grow outs, because like we started like with the ASFs, we started with just like a handful, and then we like slowly start like building and getting more and more and more. And so like when we started, we had those white reptile basics like lab tubs. That's
Yeah,
what
I've
we were
still got
doing.
some of those.
We was just doing like a little bit of ASFs, and so it worked. But then when we start like getting more, we did end up getting a rack. Actually, we got 3 like of the wooden racks. It's like
Yeah.
10 stacks of the wooden racks. And so obviously we got like the water system ran on those, got like the buckets and stuff like that. But we still keep grow outs in those lab tubs. And we also have like a 1050 10. The next step is to get like, I think it's the 824. Maybe I got the number wrong, but it's like the 3 stacks of 824 tubs in total of the 70 series tubs. Like that's the next like major rodent investment I want to make is to get that.
That's Freedom Breeder, right?
Yeah, that's Freedom Breeder.
Yeah. They I think they call it an 80-24 or something like that, or yeah, I think, and ARS calls it a 70-24. I've got both. I mean, you see the ARS racks behind me. I've got, you know, the Freedom Breeder racks are all on this side of the room.
Oh,
and
nice.
then my hatchling racks are Freedom Breeder. I've ordered both. I mean, and my colubrid hatchling racks are just the sea serpent's pencil tub racks. You know, I mean, they're that's. I mean, I can't think of a more space efficient, you know, thing.
I definitely want to get out of the water bottle business.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, that's what I was getting to was. So then the next step was like, okay, this damn water bucket on the ARS rack is disappearing daily. You know what I mean? Like, we got to do something about that. So I split it off to where there was 4 buckets, and 1 bucket runs 2 levels, and then that would last cleaning day to cleaning day, you know, so you could, you know, go a whole week. Well, now that the ASFs are in there, they drink even less than the rats. So my son only fills those because he still comes home from college. I overpay him, but he's going to get the money anyway. I might as well get something out of it. You know,
right.
But he comes home every Thursday and dumps all the old tubs, preps new tubs for the next week. For the mortar tubs, I don't have doubles of the 50 series. With the ASFs, I call the first one, dump that one, clean it, you know, wipe it out. I've never actually had to clean. I mean, you know, ASF, like those ARS tubs, the friggin' ASF stuff, just if you set up your bedding right, it just dumps right out. You know, then I dry wipe it with a paper towel. I don't think those tubs have ever been sprayed. I mean, the only time I ever took them out and did a deep clean on them was when I switched from rats to ASFs. And all of our ASFs came from one single 2.6 colony. I've never added another one since then. You know, I mean, we started, I had 1 snake that would only eat ASFs. So I'm like, I'm tired of having to hunt them down. I'm gonna get 1 colony. So I called around to see, you know, who had ASFs. I went and looked at like 3 different people's, and man, they were like wild devils, man. I've never seen anything like it. Like they would charge you, like run at you and like growl, and like I'm like, no, I'm good, you know. And I finally got in touch with Brittany Gobble, who had a line, and she's like, okay, these are good. I mean, I moved on by the handful. Like, I've still yet to be bitten by an ASF. I've been bitten twice by rats, both maternal aggression. Both times it sucked, hurt worse than any snake. But you know, the ASFs they do good for us, man. I mean, I've got, you know, my milk snake, everything except my hognose snakes pretty much eat ASFs. My gopher snakes, my bull snakes, my rosy boas, my milk snakes. No, the pyros, they eat mice too. I do feed them mice too, just because they're older and that's what they're used to, and you know, they're more fragile, so I like feeding them something that's been frozen for a while, just so I know for sure they're not going to get any parasites or anything like that. Where a lot of the bigger bodied snakes, like their bodies are built for, you know, eating that. These guys are built for eating lizards, and we're feeding them mammals, you know, and they're not built for that. So
Yeah.
you gotta, you know, they just eat 2 fuzzies a week, you know, and then when they're breeding, the females get 2 fuzzies every 3 days. The males are like, when the males come out of brumation, until they're done breeding, they don't eat. When they're done breeding, they eat like a horse for about 4 months. Then they're ready to go right back into brumation. You know?
Put me in, coach.
Oh yeah, well, they would brumate, and that's another appealing thing about the colubrids. Like, as we take this evolution of working with other species and decide kind of where we want to put our primary efforts, it's like one of the big allures of it is the fact that from sometime in November until sometime in February, you can brumate the entire room. You know what I mean? Like you can, and literally like have a couple of months off, like not have to do anything. But then I sit back and think, well, what the hell would I do? What would I do with myself? And I don't think I'll ever get to that point because I'm not going to brumate the babies. I'm going to feed them through the winter. You know what I mean? I know a lot of people say it doesn't really matter, but the people who say it doesn't matter already have 200 breeding hognose snakes. So, it's easy to say it doesn't matter. It's just like you hear breeders say, what should I hold back? Well, hold back, you don't hold back anything that's not readily available on the market. You know what I mean? If it's readily available on the market, you don't hold that back. Well, that's easy to say when you're one of the like 7 or 8 people who have things that aren't readily available on the market. It's a whole lot different when you're you're just trying to make the nicest and best animals you can, and probably even bigger than that, man, is being a positive impact on the industry. That's one of the goals I try to fulfill every time we go to a show. A lot of people don't know this at Dallas, but I had 102 fever the entire Dallas show. I had a tremendous sinus infection, and we had our second best show yet. At that show, or I don't think I'll ever beat Arlington February of 23. That one was just off the hook, but this one was now a solid number 2. And it's just right stuff at the right time. That's really what it boils down to. It's not that people are I don't. So you got people like Justin who's always got the right stuff, right? So people are gonna buy from Justin no matter what. You take somebody like me who's pairing 100 females in a year, which that's, I don't know that I'll get a whole lot more than that ever. I mean, I may even go down from there as my projects get tighter and more zoned in. But I'd like to do 40, 35, 40 clutches a year of all pythons. But I'd like to get to the point where they're all somewhat relevant to what I'm trying to accomplish and a piece of the puzzle that I think the majority of us are working toward, which is, the triples and the quads. It's like I bought a bunch of VPI exanthic clowns and het clowns, and I've got one VPI het DG. So I started looking at males and I'm like, damn, so I can buy a DG double het VPI clown for $8,000, $8,500, and increase my odds from 25 to 50% on one of 3 recessives. I can buy I'm not even going to talk about a double het for the third because ain't nobody selling that right now. If they do, it's to somebody they already know. That's just not coming to me. And then, or I could buy a VPI double het DG clown and spend $4,500 or $5,000, or I can buy a clown double het VPI DG, which makes the most sense, and get that for $1,250. You know what I mean? That in my mind that doesn't compute. You know what I mean? Because it's I know you're increasing odds on one of them, but I've always you're really close to the same odds if you're breeding a triple recessive to a triple recessive, or you're breeding a double recessive to a double het. You've roughly got the same odds to hit a double recessive. It's just in the triple to triple pairing, you don't know which double it's going to be. You know what I mean? If I like the example we used earlier with the DG clown pod, if I put a DG clown pod to a DG clown pod, it might be a clown pod, it might be a DG pod, it might be a DG clown. You know what I mean? It could be any of those combinations of those 3 genes. But there's still good odds to hit the double in there, and there's pretty good odds that double is going to carry the third as a het. And that's the way I'm going about that. I'm just you can buy, spend, and I'm not saying don't do that. I mean, if you can afford to do that, man, God bless you. I hope you do well. But I kind of reached a point once we got in the black in 2021 that I said I'm not going backwards from here. I'm not going, we're out of debt. I'm done with that. Everything's in the black. What I produce and what I sell is what's going to fund what I buy. And if I have it, I have it. If I don't, I don't. That's just the way it is. And, the last few months being good have enabled us to expand the hognose collection quite a bit. You know, I've got males coming up for the ball pythons I need for next year, and then I'm hoping I hit this year the males I need for the next year. So, you know, it's just finally getting to that point now where for what I want to do, I can produce. Because I mean, you got to understand, like, I like using common genes and making uncommon snakes. Like that's something I've said a lot of times. Like I love to take genes that other people have cast to the side, like Russo. I mean, Russo is something I've done so many crazy things with, like that cinnamon Russo Dark Knight that Mike at Banana Bread bought was probably, until I hit the Confusion Spot Nose Yellow Belly Russo this year, was probably the coolest clown I think I've ever seen. Like, you know, and it was just crazy. I mean, I could enter in 100 photo contests and it'd win 99 of them, you know, even if there was a, you know, it wouldn't matter. Like it was one of those snakes that just stood out. And it was Confusion, chocolate, cinnamon, spot nose. Well, I mean, not confusion, chocolate, cinnamon, spot nose, Russo. You know, I mean, when you think about it, that's 4 pretty common genes that come together to make a very, very uncommon animal. You know, and I think Russo doesn't get near the love it does. I mean, it should. You know, and 2020 was when I remember when I hit a Russo spot nose clown the first time. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Like even in 2018 and 2019, I was still in the learning stages of how these genes interact, and you know what's going to be a huge interaction, and what's going to be a subtle interaction, and what's going to be a brightener, and what's going to, you know, I mean, you're trying to figure all these things out. Well, I had a spot nose clown male and a pastel Russo het clown female, and I put them together and hatched a bunch of pastel stuff that was this and that, and then there was this other one. And I was like, man, what is that? You know, and I started looking at pictures. It was a spot nose Russo clown. It was a male, so I hung on to it and used him to make all the other, you know, Russo clown stuff that we have. So, you know, of all the Russo clown stuff that we have, it all started with one snake. You know, it's just like the Confusion clown stuff. It all started with one snake. You know, it didn't. You know, you don't have to have every gene. Like I don't chase down the new codoms because it honestly, that approach scares me financially, because your risk of ruin is much higher than working with something that's established but worth less. You know, that's just one of the basic tenets of a business. You know what I mean? If you work with what's tried and true and proven, you may not hit the home run, but you're going to hit a whole bunch of singles, and a whole bunch of singles will win a game. You know, I mean, that's the way
Absolutely.
I look at it, you know?
That's a good way to put it.
And I don't pay a lot of attention to what other people are doing. You know, I mean, it's not, you know, I know people are like, well, so-and-so's doing this, so I have to get this and I have to get that. And, you know, again, not saying that's a bad approach, but I don't pay a lot of attention to that. You know, I mean, I make what I think is going to look cool, you know, and then in the other projects, I make the pieces to the puzzle that I need. The one thing I'm not going to do anymore with ball pythons is I'm not going to just make snakes to be making snakes. You know, I mean, I've got a couple of clutches this year that I did that were just girls that carried over that were going to go from last year, but you know, after I had made that decision, so I got a couple of G-stripe clutches and stuff like that, you know, nothing wrong with G-stripe clutches, but there's nothing, you know, I mean, they're a little harder to sell at NARBC shows and stuff like that. That's more of a, you know, but more of a lower cost animal. But you know, like I believe I'm probably going to move most of the lavender stuff after this year. I've got a black pastel yellow belly sunset 50% het DG, and I didn't really care about the het DG, but I've got that going to all my lavender stuff, including my 2 dreamsicles this year. And if I hit them, I hit them. If I don't, I don't. I'm doing it 1 year, and then after that, I need the tub space. You know, I mean, I never did like sunset that much until I saw the sunset lavender that Brad Boa hatched, and I was like, that's as close to an orange snake as I've seen, you know, in ball pythons. So, you know, I thought, what would make it more orange? Well, I think black pastel would, you know, because that's going to wipe the pattern. And you put sunset and that together with black pastel and yellow belly. If you look at my male, it barely has any pattern at all. Like you can see a faint stripe down the back and everything, but it's really just a dark black animal that fades down to a lighter, almost orangish at the bottom. And I try to think about how that would translate into lavender. And I think it would look really, really nice. I just hope I get the hats, because I'm not doing so well in that right now. But I've got two blackhead lavenders. One of them finally hit 20 millimeters, acting like she might do something. The other one's slamming food, but she won't get off tens. Like she's just been sitting on tens forever. But luckily, he's a good eater, so I threw another lock on her just to see if we can get her moving along.
Nice. Yeah, I hadn't seen that one that you was talking about that Brad Boyd produced. I have to go look it up.
Yeah, I think he decided it was a Cine. Cine was in the pairing. I can't, somebody in the chat may be able to clarify this, but I think he was debating. I saw it at Tinley. I think it was spring of 23, maybe is when it may have been the fall of 22. I honestly can't remember, but it was at Tinley that he kind of unveiled it. And I usually don't get away from my booth much at Tinley because it's just, I mean, I get 20 feet away from there, I'm blocked off. I got to like fight through the crowd, to get there, to get back to my own table. But it's he was a good distance from us, and somebody said he had a sunset lavender, and I've been thinking about what I was going to do with lavender. It was either, I was kind of to that proverbial poop or get off the pot spot with lavender. It was like, you can only make so many dreamsicles. I wasn't really interested in working grail. I made some double hats last year thinking about it, and now I've got a bunch of confusion spot nose yellow belly, double hats sitting on Morph Market because I decided after looking at space that that's not part of the plan. And so I've got those listed. If anybody's working grail, you won't find many of those. But yeah, man, I saw that snake and I was like, I immediately knew that was the route that I was going to go with lavender. But also knew I was going to have a pretty tight window to do it because I've got so many growing up that need to come in here. And so this is the year to do it, or, and man, Miguel's so funny to work with and buy snakes from too, because I love how he wheels and deals and stuff. He's like, okay, let's do this. How about if we do this much, I send you an adult proven female het sunset. I'm like, man, I'm not really wanting to make sunsets. He's like, yeah, man, one clutch, you pay for the male, and I'm like, all right, just let's do it and send me the adult female. I know that when I bought that Hypo DG chocolate boy that turns out is chocolate and black pastel, it was just a lower expression black pastel, and as he's grown, it's shown more and more. So I ended up getting, I guess a good deal. It was still a big chunk of change, but he's like, okay, because I made him an offer, and he's like, man, I was going to list it for a little bit more than that, but I'll tell you what if we do this? What if you can buy the snake, that male, for just what you want, or you can buy that male and I'll send you a female that I know will fit with your projects for my offer. How about that? Yeah, I'm like, of course, send me the female. He's like, you want to know what it is? I'm like, no, surprise me. So I did an unboxing video, and it was a Pied double het DG Hypo. So I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. So now I can get DG, Hypo, and Clown and Pied all together and have a potential to hit the double visual double hat right out of the gate with that one snake. So yeah, that was pretty cool.
Nice. Man, it's almost been 2 hours, man. It's flown by.
Oh man, I know. I'm a talker, and I think that it gets me in trouble sometimes, but I just love everything about this, and when I get a chance to share, I just love to. I get off track really easy, so if I started any kind of thought that somebody wanted to hear the finish of, feel free to shoot me a message and remind me what I said, because at the time I don't know what I'm saying. But
that's what podcasts are for you to come on.
That's fine. It's fun. It's one of the things I love about shows. It's not, the sales are great. It's great when you leave with a great show. Or when you set a record show or any of that stuff, you're like, man, that was awesome. But even the shows I haven't made any money at, I've gone home happy, because there's 3 days that you're in front of. I call them our show family. I saw a lot of them commenting in here. Like, I think who you had on last week, like Herbert at HB. I always look forward to seeing him at Tinley. That's who I got the Lemon Blast VPI hit DG girl from.
Okay. Herbert's a good dude.
John and Brett at Jersey Guys, Brandon Nixon, Bob, Josh, all those people that, I talk online with almost daily, but I see them 6 times a year. You know, so when we get out and get to go to these shows, you know, that's when we get buck ass wild. It's like, because I mean, it's like, you know, you're only going to do it 6 times a year. Like I couldn't function if I acted that way at home. But I mean, man, people could tell you some stories about some NARBC Saturday nights at the Arlington Sheridan. There's there was one night. It was my birthday. Like it was my birthday's February 11th, and it was Saturday was my birthday. We had just had the best show we'd ever had in a single day. Like we didn't even have to sell anything Sunday, and we ended up selling our highest dollar snake on Sunday. But we'd already had a killer show, and it was my birthday. We were in there. I ended up buying, I think, 50 Vegas bombs because the bar was getting ready to close, and the bartender's name in Dallas was Jesus. And I was like, Jesus, before you close, are you going to kill me if I order 50 Vegas bombs? And he's like, not as long as you tip me, fat. And I was like, I got you. So he made them on a big tray and everything and left them in there for us. And I can't even remember who all was in there, man. I think MJ was in there. There was a bunch of people in there, like just we were doing Vegas bombs and just, you know, just having a great time. I woke up the next day, grabbed my credit card to pay for breakfast because I don't let hotels, like I don't sign for my room, man. They get you that way. So I pulled my credit card out and I'm like, Reptile LLC, what the hell is it? I had JT's credit card. I'm like, well, if I have his credit card, where's my credit card? It wasn't long after that, Vanessa called me from the auction. I forgot I'd bought some stuff and gave US Art my credit card and left it there. So I missed an opportunity because I should have ordered a block of Reptile and had it shipped to him. Because that would have been funny as hell. But I ended up just calling him and saying, man, I don't know how I got your credit card, but yeah, we both bank with the same bank and kind of look the same, you know. So it was a good time, man. But no, I mean, I love this community. I love the, you know, the people, the camaraderie that we show. You know, it's, you know, I mean, there's some assholes, of course. You know, I mean, every community is going to have its fair share of bad apples.
Facts.
You know, but at the same time, I mean, you know, the people that promote positivity those are the people that are going to make the difference in the long term. And those are the people who are going to be coming on your show 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 4 years from now, the ones that are out putting in the work, you know, and using Ozzy's motto of shut up and breathe. Like you can't take care of all these animals and argue on Facebook about which gene's better. You know, you can't argue about egg cutting. You can't argue about whether you should breed spider or not. You know, you can't be online doing all this stuff. And then, you know, if there's one tip I could give people back to the sales thing, and there's a lot of people that can use this advice, understand that you are your business. You know, what you do on your personal profile and what you do on your business profile reflects on you exactly the same. And you know, a lot of people are passionate. A lot of people are passionate about politics. A lot of people are passionate about, you know, a lot of different things. And, you know, just understand that you may be doing yourself a disservice to try and get your point across to someone who doesn't want to hear your point. You know, I can't count the number of people I've hidden, and I won't go into even where I stand on anything because, you know, I mean, I'm a libertarian. I'm be who you are. You know, that's what I believe. And, you know, treat everybody with respect. It doesn't matter, you know, but respect is not given. Respect is earned. And if you haven't, you know, if you have done nothing but things to lose my respect, then, I mean, how can we come back from there? You're not going to be around in a couple of years because, I mean, it's not because of me. It's because, you know, your customers are not going to continue to buy from you, you know. And I mean, I get sent pictures of some crazy stuff, dude, crazy stuff. Like I had a dude, they bought an ultra male clown out of the auction, got it for like $1,100, $1,200, something like that. It was in a box with a bag and a loose heat pack. There was no filler in the box at all. There was nothing. I'm like, how do people like? Yeah, I mean, he's like, amazingly, it seems okay. I'm like, you know, well, you know, hopefully the heat pack didn't burn it or anything because it was laying right on it, and, you know, and. Man, I just wish people would do their research. People would be better to each other. People would learn to take advice constructively. You know what I mean? Because it makes it hard for people. I mean, you know, Justin has been kicked out of Facebook groups for advice that he's given. And if there's anybody that has, you know, forwarded this industry, you know, in the public eye anyway, there's people behind the scenes that are doing things that, you know, are beyond what Justin's doing. But in the public eye, Justin's it. He's the top of the mountain. You know what I mean? And because of some advice he gave in a Facebook group, they're going to kick him out. You know, I mean, that kind of stuff. That's the reason people don't go on social media, and people have resorted to Discord. You know, and you get into a small Discord, like I'm gonna plug Bob, Bob's Ball Shed. I mean, that's the Discord I'm the most active in. I mean, I'm in there almost every day. Like, I feel like I know the people in there. We all hang out at shows, at least some. I don't chase Bob and Josh. They got a little longer legs than I do when it comes to those late Saturday nights. But we have these small communities now where you can actually talk about things, because there's people. I mean, I remember getting chastised back in like 18 or 19 by some group because I didn't like do a deep clean every time my snake took a crap. And it's like, I'm like, dude, I'm removing the substrate. I'm cleaning underneath it. What do you want me to do? Oh, well, you're lazy. And I'm like, I'm lazy because I don't dump out. I'm like, how much money do you spend on coconut? You know what I mean? Like, and that was back when I used coconut, but I mean, I wish people would understand there's so many right ways to do this,
Right.
and old school doesn't mean bad. New ways doesn't mean that's good. You know what I mean? Just because it's a new way of doing things doesn't make it right. I mean, when it boils down to it, a lot of those things that I was doing in that wholesale shop I was a partner in 1989 to 1992 is still what I do today. Lots of things have evolved. You know what I mean? But there's some things that are timeless. And it's it's just, people don't value experience as much anymore. That they tend to listen to the person who sounds the smartest, not the person who's done it the longest. And I do agree, practice makes permanent. It doesn't make perfect. And if you're doing the wrong thing over and over, you can convince yourself it's the right thing. I do believe that's a thing too.
Oh yeah,
But
100%.
but there's so many ways of doing the right thing that I just wish people would be a little less judgmental and a little better to each other.
Absolutely, absolutely. Going back to your point though, like, sorry, I got sidetracked by the comment, but yeah, man, you've got a ton of support, man. People just been commenting left and right, like, and supporting you and saying like you're a good guy and stuff. So you obviously doing something right in the community, and so that's dope, man. So kudos to you.
That's awesome, man. I just try to help when asked. I mean, if somebody calls and my phone rings, I answer it. If somebody sends me a text, I may not be able to get right back to you, but I'll get back to you before I go to bed that night. I mean, I'm gonna be there to help people. And if somebody's doing something wrong, in my opinion, I'm gonna tell them why I think that's the wrong approach. But it might not be the wrong approach for them. That's the nuance that so many people miss is, what's right for one person is not right for the next person. I've got buddies that do little shows in Texas, and they do 20, 25 shows a year. And a snake over $500 is useless to them. I mean, they're breeding bells to bells and pods to pods, because they're doing $3,000, $3,500 a weekend selling pods and bells, at all the little shows across the state of Texas. And, and that's still happening today. That didn't change when the market dip happened. The market dip happened with all the really high end stuff becoming not so high end stuff. It didn't make the low end stuff go any lower. I mean,
Yeah.
it's still where it was beforehand. What did he say? Yeah, Brian answers. Then 2 hours later, you get to ask the question. That's Josh. He's funny, man. Oh my God.
Cool. Well, bro, it's been an amazing show, man. I really appreciate you coming on, man. Like, you just dropping gem after gem after gem. So it's definitely been a learning experience. Can't wait to go back and listen to this one, man. It's been super dope, man.
Oh man, I appreciate you having me. And I'll tell you, I saw a comment from Tom Barnhart that said great show, and that means a lot because he's one of the people I really look up to in this. So
oh yeah, shout out to Tom, man. That's dope. Appreciate you coming out, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, man.
But yeah, man. We're gonna wrap it up for tonight. Thank you for everybody that came through and listened tonight. Shout out to the replay game when you coming back, listen to this. Make sure you drop a comment and let us know what you think, man. It really goes a long way. Shout out to the audio only gang. The audio version of this episode going to be on the podcast platforms here in a few minutes. But that's it for tonight, man. For Clutch Conversations, I'm Mike. The lovely lady behind the scenes is Takara. Thank you for coming out. Be blessed. Peace. Hey, can you hang back for a few minutes, bro?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
All right. I'm going to do the whole outro again. No, I'm just kidding. Thank y'all. Peace.
See you guys.